I invented the straight line system, which most of you probably know or heard of, or have at least seen some videos on.
Let me tell you something. If you don't have a starting point, I can't draw a map for you. The straight line goes nowhere without a starting point. What you need to do is get honest with yourself, see things as they are, not worse than they are, then see them better than they are, develop a plan to get there, and this is your goal, your vision for the future. Make sense? Yes or yes? Okay, great. Give yourself a score. Next reason people are broke, they set impotent goals. Here's the deal, and you're going to know this is true when you hear it because it's a basic truth of life. The reason that most people are not successful or not wealthy is not because they set their goals too high and miss them. It's because they set them too low and hit them. It's not because you set your goals too high and miss. You set your goals too low and you hit them.
Most people have goals in life, and we've been brought to think you got to be goal-oriented. That's the first mistake. Yes, you need goals, but there's something far beyond goals, which is what all successful people have, and that's a vision. It's a vision for the future. See, here's it is. You see things as they are, but not worse than they are, which is what a lot of people do. They say, oh, it's so terrible. They tell themselves this wild story about why they can't take action. And in truth, the story they tell themselves is exactly what holds them back from being successful. The story that stops them from acting. There's so much, the economy, and they play the blame game. They complain, they justify, and it stops them from moving forward. So see things as they are, not worse than they are, and then see them better than they are and make them that way. Right? He survived hunger strikes and united a country, not because he had a goal for a free India. He had a vision of a free India. Nelson Mandela, all those years in jail, a vision. It's Richard Branson, who's a friend of mine, who I know he sponsors me, my speaking tour. He's like a visionary. Bill Gates, they're all visionaries.
There are some weird people out there in the world, like me. They're called born closers. I'm a born closer. I didn't have to figure it out. My brain was wired in that weird way that it allowed me to just know intuitively what to do. And I bet you there's a bunch of you in here. Raise your hand if you're a born closer. What I did with the straight line was I somehow figured out how to dissect my own strategy as a born closer, and I allowed it to be essentially used by some people who weren't, and it turned them into the same level of closing. That's what the straight line does, to flash forward. So anyway, for all of you, whether it was the wrong job, we live in a world, excuse my French, where shit happens. You're walking along the street, you're doing everything right, and bam, it happens. We live in that world. Sometimes it's our own fault, like me. I made mistakes. I stepped over the line, and I deserve what I got. But sometimes it's not your fault, really. Cruel, tough world, it's not fair. And what happens is we get our wings clipped, so we're still eagles, but we start thinking like ducks.
Some people have a really good vision, but they spend a lot of time focusing on where they don't want to go. They focus on all their problems in life. They focus on the so-called shit of life. And here's the problem. What you focus on, you attract. You do. Not like The Secret from 80 Mile. What you focus on, you move towards and you attract. So if you're out there focusing on where you don't want to go versus on where you do want to go, guess what you become? I see it, I'm like, I get away from you. I don't want to be you'll come to me too. Okay? So if you're one of these people when you have trouble focusing on where you want to go, and if you don't have a vision, it will give yourself a low score. And what I'll teach you just a little bit today is something called bifurcated focus. It's how you learn to focus on your vision, but also scan the horizon for opportunities. You don't want to have laser vision because things come up very often. How you make your money in business is not how you thought you'd make it. Opportunities present themselves as you're moving towards your vision, and you have these goals that serve as benchmarks along the way to see if you're moving in the right direction or wrong direction. And what happens is this. If you're getting negative feedback, you say, I got to change my approach. And at the end of the day, though, that ability to focus where you want to go is like a ship. You'll end up getting there if you look in the direction of your focus. So give yourself a score.
Every great entrepreneur uses to take an idea and turn it into a reality, because it allows you to be flexible, to pivot, and to sort of, fail elegantly, as I say, right? Be wrong and then change your approach. But we learn this formula and then we try to apply it in the real world. It doesn't work. Why is that? I want to show you why. Let me start by writing finding out this very basic formula that I did not invent, that goes back to probably way before Think and Grow Rich. Like probably was back with Benjamin Franklin, right? But the point is, it became popular in modern self-development. And it is like this: know your outcome. That's like step one. Know where you want to go, right? That's step number one. Take massive action. In other words, you know where you want to go, and then you take massive action. Analyze your results. And step four is change your plan accordingly. Change your plan accordingly. Now, I saw this when, Dr. Bandler taught this, Tony Robbins taught it. Everybody teaches the same formula, right? And the reason they teach it is because it's a very empowering formula.
Like an entrepreneur, forget a salesperson, how about just an entrepreneur who's looking to start a business? Well, if you can't sell, if you can't influence, if you can't persuade, good luck trying to get your business off the ground. I'm not talking about just your customers. I'm talking about the bankers, the people with venture capitalists, your vendors, your credit card processor, the people who work for you. How do you get people to work for you excited? How do you get them excited? How do you get them to want to buy into your vision? At the highest level, what sales really is the transference of emotion. And the emotion you're transferring is this emotion of certainty. That someone feels certain, yeah, it's a good thing, it's going to help me, it's going to fill my need. When you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to start a business and you're recruiting people, well, you're selling people on your vision for the future, your vision for this company. If you can't do that, good luck trying to get great people to work for you. It's nearly impossible, which is why you always see, the people, if they say, oh, he's a visionary. That's true, but typically not only are they visionaries, they also possess the ability to sell the vision to other people, to inspire them, to motivate them. So selling is not just like, people think of selling, oh, well, I'm not a salesman, I don't need to. Well, yes, you do. You need to learn how to influence. How about trying to get your kids to make their bed or do their homework or believe in the value of education? How about trying to get a landlord to give you a reduction on your rent or to extend the lease the way you want? So I always look at this, say, when I say I cracked the code on influence, what I really did essentially was I was, by working backwards almost, by saying I'm going to start at the end and go to the beginning, say what has to happen before someone says yes. I was able to take that and put it into this system that took the no-name talentless guys and turned them into millionaires.
I'm going to say, I hear what you're saying, Jim. So I hear what you're saying. We're still in rapport here. But let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? That means, does the first 10 make sense to you? All I'm saying is, I understand you want to think, I get that. I hear what you're saying. But let me ask you this, like money aside, but I don't say that, it's my tonality. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? And he'll say, yeah, it sounds pretty good. Now, where is that on the certainty scale? It's like a 6 or 7. It's not a 10. So I say, exactly. I match his tone. I match his level of certainty. And now I'm going to actually add more benefits on. Remember that real rapport is not based on like, oh my God, you like fishing? I like fishing. That comes later. So you have to make sure there's a big difference between how you handle a client versus how you handle a prospect. And also, by the way, are you in really high-ticket sales? And what people say is high-ticket sales these days, like some of these charlatans online. Like, I teach you, I'm a high-ticket closer. About like a $5 million contract with Grumman. I mean, the rules are somewhat different here. I'm talking about for the average person that's going out there and engaging in these transactional sales with shorter sales cycles under 30 days, let's say, right?
I'm not going to ask to see it. No one's going to, you're going to total it up for your own knowledge so you know exactly where you are. You know what you need to learn. It's not for anybody but you. But get honest with yourself right now. Let's go through these here, and I'll give you some insight into why these things are so destructive. And if you see that you have any of these things in your own life, you know you have to work on it. People are unable to manage their state. Now, this is your physiological, emotional state, and what it is how you feel in the moment. You could be the most talented person in the world, the best business person in the world, the best athlete, and I work with lots of athletes, by the way. The best athlete in the world, doesn't matter. The best parent in the world. But if you're in a disempowered, emotional state, you can't do anything. Here are the empowering states for business: certainty, confidence, clarity, courage, conviction, ambition, passion. Disempowering states for business: overwhelm, uncertainty, fear. Those things destroy you. Now, we can't manage our state all the time. You're not a robot, but that skill, that in the moment when it matters, when it really comes down to it, can you manage your state?